Chapter 15. Infirmary. As soon as I pass through the door, I'm greeted by the strong reek of alcohol. Not the drinking kind. It's what you smell in hospitals, like when I was 7 and Pop took me to one after the scythe fell off the barn wall while I was trying to hang it up. Remembering that makes me look down at the white scar that winds across my right forearm like a snake. 20 stitches. But it doesn't remind me of the pain. It reminds me of how much I miss the life we had. "Young man," a woman's voice snaps. How long have I been standing here, lost in memory? Someone in a fog. Long enough for that voice to sound impatient. Standing in front of me, tapping her foot, is the person who must be the nurse. The bone-thin woman who was studying Pop and me while we were talking with Superintendent Morrell back at the parade grounds. She's still wearing white, but has on a long white coat, like the doctor in that hospital 6 years ago. There's gray in her hair and frown lines across her forehead. Around her neck is one of those instruments that hospital doctor wore. Stethoscope, my dictionary told me. "Yes, ma'am," I say, making my voice as polite as I can. Her severe expression lightens a little. Good manners can do that when you meet someone for the first time. "I am Mrs. Wilting," she says. "Coat off." I take off my coat. Mrs. Wilting nods. "Good. You speak English. Easier for me." She tosses my coat over her shoulder onto a small cot behind her without even watching it land. She says, looking me up and down. "Fairly clean." Her voice is as sharp as her features. Clipped, precise, almost mechanical. So is everything else in this room. It is all hard edges, white, so white that it hurts my eyes. Every object in here, medical things for which I do not know the names, seems hard and cold. Being an infirmary, this is where people get fixed up when they're hurt. But there's nothing comforting about it. Mrs. Wilting raises her right hand in a fist. She pops up her index finger. Then she drops that hand so fast, like throwing a dart, that her wrist makes a clicking sound. "Over there. Sit." I go over. I sit in the hard, metal chair she's just pointed out. As soon as I'm down, she steps behind me and grabs my shoulders. Her fingers dig in like a hawk's talons. "Straighten up," she commands. I do that right quick. "Now," Mrs. Wilting says, sweeping a sheet around my neck and pinning it so tight and back I can barely swallow. "I am no barber, but no barber is needed for this." I catch a glimpse out of the corner of my eye of the large, shiny shears she now has in her hand. "Eyes straight. Do not stir unless you wish to lose an ear." I don't move a muscle as she begins to chop. She does it methodically, grabbing a handful in her left hand, yanking it straight, then lopping it off with those razor-sharp steel shears. Snip! A hank of my long black hair is carelessly tossed into the basket in front of the chair. Snip! More of the hair I've never had cut before is sheared from my head. Snip! Mom loved how black and shiny my hair always was. Snip! Even though Pop wore his hair the same, saying that the Creator meant us men to have long hair, it was Mom who showed me how to wash it clean. Snip! It was her who ran the comb through it, humming as she did so, her hands firm but careful not to hurt me, not jerking my head back and forth like Mrs. Wilting is doing now. Snip! That thought of Mom's gentle hands, of the song she hummed as she combed my hair, is making a lump form in my throat. It's like losing her all over again. I feel tears forming at the edge of my eyes. I press my lips together. I'm not going to cry. Done! There's a metallic click from behind me as the nurse puts down the shears. I start to lift one hand toward my head. "Stay still!" She grasps my head on either side, turning it roughly one way, and then the next as she peers closely. Her hands are cold. It's as if her fingers were touched by the winter wind. Mrs. Wilting sniffs. "No sign of little beasties. But we do not take chances at Chalagi. Hold this." I free my hands from under the sheet, grasp the can she thrust at me. There's a metal-toothed comb in it. The can's half filled with clear liquid. Kerosene, my nose tells me. Eyes shut. Pressing down so hard I wonder if she's drawing blood, she runs the kerosene-soaked comb over every inch of my skull. There are actual tears coming out of my eyes when she's finally done. The combined result of the sharp scent of the kerosene and the pain of her scraping away non-existent critters. She unpins the sheet, whips it off me, plops the steel comb into the can that she plonks onto a shelf. I need to wipe my eyes. I start to reach into my pocket for a kerchief. Did I tell you to move? I drop my hands back into my lap. Mrs. Wilting steps back, studying me again. Roll up your left sleeve. I do as she asks. She grabs my wrist with one hand, pushes my sleeve farther up with the other. Then she presses her finger against the rough circular scar on my upper arm. Vaccinated for smallpox? I nod my head. Good. Easier for me. And me as well. If this nurse gave me a smallpox inoculation, she'd probably scrape a hole to the bone. She moves over to a cabinet on the wall. Typhoid, she says, picking up a syringe with a needle on it big enough to kill a bull. Then diphtheria. She rattles off the list of injections I'm about to get. Possum was not exaggerating when he said I was going to get mowed and pin-cushioned. One needle after another goes into my left arm. Efficiently, if not gently. It's hard to say which hurts worse now, my burning scalp or my arm that feels as if it was hit with a baseball bat. Now for the physical. Stand up. I do that. Somehow manage to avoid falling forward on my face from dizziness. Open your mouth. I do, but not fast enough or wide enough to avoid her grabbing my chin and prying it down as she shoves in a stained flat wooden stick to depress my tongue. Say ah. Oh. Good. Mrs. Wilting tosses the stick back into the cabinet. She rams her stethoscope against my chest, sticking the listening pieces into her ears. She says. She moves it to my back. Cough. I cough. Good. Lungs clear. No tuberculosis to share with the other boys and girls. She grabs a card from atop a table, sits down, and picks up a pencil. Name. Ma'am? I thought you spoke English. Your name. Cal Black. Blackbird. Blackbird. Calvin. She slowly prints my name at the top of the card. Born? 24th of June, 1920. She writes that down too. Race, she asks. When I hesitate, not sure what to say, she looks up at me and nods. Indian, she says, writing down the word that now defines me. Father's name? Railroad Will, I think. Knight of the open road. Name? Her voice impatient. William Blackbird. Humph! Of course. That roughneck boy. I should have recognized him from all the times he spent in here being patched up. She looks down at the card as she prints his name. Tribe, she says, then answers her own question. Creek. And? She looks at my face and makes her decision by what she sees. Full blood. I don't try to correct her as she prints it on the card. I just want this to be over with. She taps the card with her pencil. Father's occupation? I pause again, but not long enough for her to form a conclusion of her own this time. Farmer, I reply, hoping it'll again be true. Mother's name? Mary, I say. First name is enough. Alive or deceased? My throat feels like it's still being choked by that sheet. I swallow hard. She died, I manage to say. Deceased it is. She puts down the card, taps it again with her pencil. This is not my job, she says. But the school registrar is away this weekend, so I am filling in. She stands, wipes her hands down the front of her coat several times as if brushing away dirt. Done, she says. Ma'am? She walks to the door, opens it, and points for me to go. I grab my coat off the cot and barely make it through the door before it is authoritatively slammed shut behind me.